What's up guys, and welcome back to On the Brick with another Minifig Showcase. Today I have for you not one, not two, but 6 full figures, as this is the entire lineup of Avatar The Last Airbender figures from minifigs.me. And while you can buy these figures individually or even get the gang itself, I went with the full $80 package to get all 6 figures. And while that might sound like a great deal for 6 custom printed minifigures, there is a reason for that price that we will definitely be going into. Obviously in this pack, we have Sokka, Katara, Aang, 1950s Toph, Zuko, and I have absolutely no idea who this is supposed to be. If you haven't watched Avatar The Last Airbender, then I'm guessing you're not watching this video. But Avatar is one of my favorite animated shows of all time, really only coming after Futurama. I have actually watched the show in its entirety twice through this year, including showing it to my girlfriend for the very first time. Like with individual characters, I can't really sum up everything that happens. So to keep it extremely simple, these characters live in a world where they are able to manipulate certain elements: earth, water, fire, and air. Aang is what is known as the Avatar, a being who can manipulate all 4 elements at the same time. The story revolves around him, the friends that he makes, and his journey to restore peace in the world. Really, if you haven't seen the show, I would highly recommend checking it out. All 3 seasons of the show are very well done. They just get better as they go along. The characters are well done, and you can't even really say that there's a bad episode, as even the worst episode still isn't really that bad. But anyway, let's take a closer look at the figures themselves. I will be starting with the order that I showed them off in the beginning, so here is Sokka. While Aang is definitely the main character, many would consider Sokka the leader of the group. As you can see, he did have 360-degree printing if you count that squiggly line on his back. He does of course come with the boomerang that is absolutely included with his figure, and he also has an alternate face that is much angrier than the first. But if we take a closer look at the legs, you can see one of the reasons why I'm disappointed in these. The printing here is noticeably off. You can clearly see the blue of the legs themselves peeking through because the printing is too far to the left. Weirdly enough, thankfully the torso isn't too complex, so it doesn't look that bad there. It's also not really misprinted on the back either. There it's fine. It's only an issue on the front here, but it is a very noticeable issue. If we move on to Katara, you can see that it does come with this water piece that she can hold, and I think that's really awesome. And I really do like the inclusion of the hair loopies on her face, except they're not the entire loop. Considering this is literally one of the characteristics of her look, I think doing the entire loop should have been a no-brainer. I know that printing these things isn't necessarily the easiest to do, but unfortunately, only doing it halfway really stands out. Now, just like Sokka, she is 360-degree printed. In fact, all of these characters are, but unlike Sokka, she has actual details going all the way around her instead of just a squiggly line. I actually really like the designs that they've put into these characters. Now, also unlike Sokka, Katara does not have an alternate head on her, only the one there. I'm going to go ahead and guess that the hair loops is the reason why, as an alternate face would have been seen easily. Unfortunately, the bad printing is also on this figure. You can see once again, even though it's not as prominent, that the printing is slightly too far to the left, and on the left leg it's too far up. I really have to wonder what the quality control is like at minifigs.me, because so far it doesn't seem like there is any. Because if I move Katara's hands up and give you a better look at the torso, you can clearly see that the printing there is also off. Maybe they use the left hand side of things to line up where the printing goes, but then that still doesn't make it okay. On her torso, you can clearly see where the black lines up directly against the left of the torso, but on the right hand side, there's a noticeable gap there. When you buy these figures on their own, they're just over $18 a piece, but still. In my opinion, these are things that you need to make sure you're getting right before you're sending them out in mass. Literally every single other custom maker that I know does that. Big Kid Bricks, Clone Army Customs, and even Minifig Madness all do quality assurance before they ship out their products. But if we move on to Aang, you can see that it comes with this rod that's meant to represent his staff. And he is wearing his Season 1 outfit here. It is way more vibrant and much more colorful than the Southern Water Tribe outfits that Katara and Sokka wore. And I know that this is a really weird thing to say, but it feels extremely cartoony. This entire character does. And while all of these characters do come from a cartoon, the others don't feel cartoony. Now, Aang does not come with a separate face on the back of his head, instead he comes with a separate head and a new face entirely. This one obviously representing when he goes into the Avatar state. One of the issues I do have with this figure is the arrow on his head. If I bring in the Air Monk made by Extra Minifigures, you can see what the arrow should have looked like. It's not only better proportioned, but it's a much more accurate color as well. Because yes, there are times when the arrow looks purple, but we all know that his tattoos are blue. I'm not gonna lie here, I generally like the one that Extra Minifigures made way more, and would actually recommend you get that and his other versions of Avatar characters instead. And one of the reasons that I say that is because of small details like the arrow on his hand here, which the Minifigs.me version is lacking. To be completely fair, I'm not gonna take away a point or anything like that from Minifigs.me because it is just something that Extra Minifigures did to go that extra mile. But the biggest issue that I have with Aang are his eyes. This is why I said he's cartoony, because if I compare him to other characters from this same batch, you can see how much bigger they are. I did not look into the history of where these came from, but it's entirely possible that they made Aang first, did it in this specific cartoony style, and then later came out with the rest of the figures. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if that's exactly what happened, because there is a noticeable difference in the eyes and the mouth, making for a noticeable design difference. But one thing that's not different in any way is the printing being off again. Here you can very clearly see the yellow sticking out. This time it's slightly too far to the left and slightly too far up. And looking at the torso, you can see the same problem again. It's flush with the left side of the torso, but off on the right side. And that's 3 figures in a row that have had the printing off now. Even though I liked the designs for Sokka and Katara, the printing was off and kind of ruins it. But if we move on, we get to 1950s Toph, which I say so because of the hairpiece. While this, weirdly enough, is probably the best hairpiece for her, it's the lack of the headband that she wears that really makes it look off. That headband is something that I never even really noticed she was wearing until looking at pictures now, but it does make a big difference here. But she does come with an accessory, and you'll immediately notice the problem here. I don't understand how something like this gets sold. I don't get how this is seen, put into a box, and then shipped out. This is just extremely poor quality in all honesty. Sure, it's just a round tile, but as I've shown you and will continue to show you, those problems persist in the figures themselves. Toph herself does have a pretty simple design, and that's just how the character is. She looks good, and she does come with a second alternative face that looks a little more emo, for lack of a better term. If I could nitpick one thing, it's that I would have made the black of her eyes a grayish color instead to show that she is blind. It's really not that big of a deal, but I did want to mention that. And also, once again, you can see that the printing on her legs and her torso are off. And if we move on to Zuko, well, this is the best of the bunch by far. I love that it comes with the little flame to show he's firebending, but the design is just really well made overall, and it's very reminiscent of the fire prints that Extra Minifigures made. In fact, I have a hard time choosing between which of these two I really like the most. So let me know which ones you think look better down in the comments below. And surprisingly, unlike any of the other figures, the printing on this one isn't off. I mean, if you really look, you can tell that his left leg is ever so slightly off, but overall it's fine, the torso is fine. This figure is actually really well done, which lets me know that they can do it right. Oh, and also he does not have an alternate face. And lastly is this guy who, yes, I know is supposed to be Uncleiro, but let's be honest, it doesn't really look like him. If I take away the teapot, it's almost like he's a completely different character, and most of that has to do with the face. While I show you his details and whatnot, the thing is, Uncleiro isn't really known for having a lot of hair, but does have quite a distinctive beard. While they did try to print part of the beard on his face, it looks more like Admiral Zhao, and the hairpiece itself just takes away from everything in my opinion. I know a custom printed part would be way too much to ask because it would raise the price significantly, but when I saw this figure, I reached out to Extra Minifigures asking if he would ever make one, and he said no because he couldn't get the hair right. And honestly, I think that's the better choice, because however much I love Uncleiro, and we all love Uncleiro, this just isn't him. So out of the 6 figures that I got today, 2 of them have good designs, but the printing is bad unfortunately. One of them is way too cartoony for my liking and has bad printing. One of them has bad printing, an okay design, but a hairpiece that really just doesn't fit them. One of them is actually good, and one of them is okay, but not really representative of the character it's supposed to be. So after all this, would I recommend these? Well, I think it's pretty obvious that the answer is no. Even though they are relatively cheap, quote unquote, I would much rather spend the extra money getting higher quality figures from Extra Minifigures. And as some of you know, I do have a discount code with Extra Minifigures, so I want to be extremely clear that that is not the reason I'm saying this. I bought these 6 Avatar figures weeks before that ever happened. I just have these Minifig Showcases planned out for quite a while, and today was the day that this one finally came up. If you like what you see here, I will of course have the link to buy these in the description down below, and I will also be including the link to where you can buy the versions from Extra Minifigures, and you can use my discount to not only help the channel, but save yourself some money. Either way, let me know your thoughts on everything in the comments down below. Please do remember to like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. And if you have subscribed, I would really appreciate it if you rang the bell. It goes a long way towards helping me out. And another way that you can help me out is by checking out my Patreon, where you can sign up for as low as $1 a month. Or if you're feeling generous, you can join at higher levels and see your name on screen like these wonderful people, or get shoutouts like Jonathan and Jaden. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you next time.